In a breathtaking new piece of reporting published in New York Magazine, adopted from reporting for an upcoming book called Regime Change, journalists Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan reveal a White House rocked and completely thrown off by indecision and concern as they navigated what to do with the Epstein files. They write this, quote, "Behind the scenes, the Epstein crisis was paralyzing the Trump administration to a far greater extent than the public knew. In their public statements, Trump's advisors were full of bravado, dismissing the crisis. But in reality, it was consuming the highest ranks of the administration, as no issue had for the president's team since the Russia investigation in his first term. His aides were determined to keep their rising sense of panic out of public view."
And when you read this report, it says that the vice president suggested having Tucker Carlson interview Ghislaine Maxwell to have her clear the president's name publicly. Do you think that would have been helpful had that gone forth?
Well, Tucker didn't interview Ghislaine Maxwell, did he? So, yeah, the fact that that didn't happen should speak volumes for Tucker Carlson. And it also shows the lengths they were willing to go to try to find someone trustworthy to the American people to try to extend this cover-up. And the American people just aren't buying it. This has been the top issue ever since it started. It should have never been a fight. It should have been the easiest thing to happen. And I'll point something else out. No one has been held accountable for the Epstein files. Nobody. In other countries, there's people that have been arrested, people that have been forced to step down. Here in America, we haven't seen any justice for the victims. And that's because look who's in charge. They're not being prosecuted. They're not being held accountable. And I think that comes from the top.
The New York Times published some remarkable new reporting on how the Epstein files essentially paralyzed the White House. There's a lot to unpack in the article and a lot more than we have time for right now. But it essentially detailed how the president's inner circle struggled to try to handle the Epstein saga as if it were a national security level crisis, including strategizing the Situation Room. I'm wondering what your reaction was to that.
Well, I think this is President Trump's Watergate moment. This New York Times article is absolutely explosive. It documents months-long saga in which the highest level officials, including the president, the vice president, the chief of staff, the head of the FBI, the head of the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, and the senior communications officials colluded inside the Situation Room, essentially to break the law, to defy congressional subpoenas, and to bury the Epstein case and the investigation into it. I believe that this ultimately could be part of what takes Donald Trump down, because it is very clear that they intended to break the law and that they used the White House grounds to strategize to do that with the highest level officials. And many of those officials testified in front of Congress under oath during that time and lied directly to Congress about what they knew about this case.
Yeah, baby, it's episode 86 of The Whiners on June 11, 2026. America's sweetheart. Yours truly, Jeff Norman, in Wilmington, North Carolina. And my good friend, who I was just showering with praise before the show, referring to him as a very nice young man, is Ryan Milton in Austin, Texas, just outside of Austin, actually.
Just outside of Austin, in an undisclosed location.
It's best to keep it that way. Are you in the Situation Room having strategy talks about how to handle your involvement in the Epstein situation?
I'm having a situation right now. Actually, that's why I have this wine here, because the situation is only going to be cured by a nice, tasty glass of 4-star wine. I didn't have the budget for a 5-star wine. And to be honest with you, this one was one of those under $20 bottles that was just sitting in the refrigerator that you're just casually pouring a little bit now and then at a tough time during the day. And actually, it's pretty tasty. I have to admit it. What
do you mean now and then? You just keep it on a long-term basis? And
I mean, it lasts, maybe 3, at the maximum 4 days. It's refrigerated, right?
Oh,
so
yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you were
also my cork thing broke the cork, so it's now floating in there. I have to get a new thing because every time I do that, it pushes the cork in. So just too aggressive to get the wine, and so I'm
You're
ruining
so
the cork.
macho.
Yeah. It's the gym stuff that I've been doing.
All right. Yet you're still strangely effeminate. Let's not forget that.
No. Look it. No, can't be. I'm wearing Bobby Kennedy's hat. So.
All right, if you say so. All right, and I'm drinking a wine from South Africa. I believe this is the first time on the Winers either of us has had a South African wine. I'm continuing my spree of frugality, if there is such a thing. $5.99 at Trader Joe's.
Do they still? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I just want to say that I'm enjoying it. It's really good. You don't have to pay a lot for wine, as I always tell you. Do they still what? Do they still have $2 Chuck?
$3 Chuck, I think the last time I heard.
Yeah, it went up. I think they still sell it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's not that great.
I don't think that they don't have any good wine just because of that.
No, remember the book I sent you said that there's just as many really bad $40 bottles of wine as there are really good $3.99 bottles of wine.
That's true, but I think I've heard you disparage Trader Joe's before, perhaps in jest.
Well,
Maybe it was in jest.
I mean, it depends, right? You got to try all of them because some of them are okay, but yeah, I do disparage their wines.
Last week when Matt Ho was here, what a great guest he is, by the way. I really like Matt because he checks all the boxes. He's extremely.
We're talking about hair.
No. I mean, he's well informed, very articulate.
Mm-hmm.
He has a good sense of humor, and he's a good conversationalist. He's easy to talk to.
He reads a lot, and we have some of the same favorite authors too.
Yeah.
So
great guy. I hope none of our other guests hear me say this, but I think I'm ready to declare Matt Ho my favorite Winers guest. And we were trying to help him last week because he is taking care of a dog that was abandoned. As I recall, his ex-girlfriend somehow got a hold of it, and Matt expected to have it for a very brief period of time, but it's been, I don't know, a couple of months now, 6 weeks, something like that. So we put it out to the audience and, to see if anybody would want to adopt this dog. And our friend Stefan immediately said, me. But it turns out we did a background.
It was nice.
It was nice, but we did a background check on Stefan and found that there are 17 animal cruelty convictions in his past.
No.
So that was a deal breaker.
No, we did a backyard check. That was the deal breaker.
All right, I admit I'm kidding. It wasn't 17 convictions. It was only 4 convictions. Now, he has no backyard, so that's one of the factors that deemed Stefan to be not quite the right adopter.
Adopter, right. Well, so let me just throw this out there to no. See, you got people all upset now, right? See that no. It is not 17. There's not
4. It's only 4.
Only 4. But there's that very, very good looking. Now, what do you say? What kind of dog is it again? It's a you called it a Cane.
Yeah, because I looked it up. I did a little research because my nephew is a dog trainer, and he told me what kind of a dog it is. So then I looked it up and saw the pronunciation, but now I forgot something Cane
Corso.
Yeah, Cane Corso. Yeah, it's an Italian word. So.
But look, I just want to throw this out to Stefan. Don't worry about it. We've got you covered. My 2 cockatiels, Bobby and Sasha, have just had 2 eggs, and they're probably going to have 2 or 3 more. They are definitely fertilized because these are the horniest cockatiels I have ever seen. They're the only ones that I've ever seen up close, and they go so they're just laying eggs now, and they're taking turns sitting on the eggs, incubating the eggs. The men do it too in that world. So he can always get a cockatiel now from me.
All right. Can we finish though with this pitch? Because Matt is still looking for somebody So if anybody in the audience might consider adopting this dog, send an email to us at info@ustourofduty.org. info@ustourofduty.org.
Beautiful dog.
And Matt lives in North Carolina, and he said he would be willing, for the right person, to drive anywhere east of the Mississippi to deliver this dog. So if you think you might be interested, we'll put you in touch with Matt, and hopefully the stars will align.
Oh, whoa. There we go.
Okay. So a couple of days ago, I saw in the news that gold and silver the price of gold and silver has been down recently. And being the idiot that I am, I at first thought that was bad news. But then it occurred to me that since the long-term predictions seem to be very bullish, according to most experts, that probably means it's a good time to buy now while the price is down, as long as your confidence is going to go up in the long term. What's your take on it?
Well, so I looked into that 2-month low, and a lot of it's true that the price of physical gold has gone down, and it does make sense, therefore, to get it. It sort of makes sense to get it no matter what. Gold, and also I would say silver, because silver has actually, it says there, gold and silver has done that as well. A lot of what was wiped out was all of the futures, speculative stuff in gold and silver. That was what was wiped out for all of 2026. And you know what? The thing is, there's all kinds of things about, it's leaving, diversification away from the dollar, but it's just what you said. It's really simple. It's part of what you need. You also need your go bag and your rifle, and you need some ammunition, and you need, maybe some really good Russian MREs, because they do make the best MREs. So at least that I've tried. According to some of the guys I've seen. So it doesn't mean that it's like going down the drain or something like that. Silver is still, as we had been saying, very much in use right now for all of the new EV and technology. And gold is benefiting from the fact that central banks around the world are still buying it in large volume, and they're not buying treasuries at the same rate.
All right. Well, check it out at whiners.gold. Get a hold of these fine people. They are our beloved sponsor, and they can tell you all you need to know and send you a kit. And there's a lot more info at whiners.gold. So in the opening, you saw some Democratic politicians claiming that this article that came out in the New York Times Magazine yesterday or the day before, I think it was yesterday, there's the article, is another one of these walls are closing in on Trump. This is it. This is his Watergate scandal, as Melanie Stansberry said in the opening. Mm-hmm. She said it details really behind the scenes of what was going on at the White House to try to deal with this scandal. And she said, well, they were all conspiring, colluding to break the law, but she doesn't say what law they broke, and I think she's full of it, and it's much ado about nothing, really.
I mean, let me just say one thing on that, because there are so many things that are legitimate, and Trump is Trump. He promises so many things. And he just kind of goes, by the way, speaking of, I mentioned MREs. So apparently he doesn't like his MREs. So I'll get them from you later, Alex. Trump, he made lots of promises. I think this is the real big thing. He made all these promises that he was going to do things. And I, for one,
well, that's true. Not only him, but people in Trump world. Dan Bongino on his podcast. I think Kash Patel prior to him being appointed to his position, And then Pam Bondi as the Attorney General, making it seem like she had Epstein files and some information that would incriminate people. And they really botched the way they handled this. And that's the part I like about this article. By the way, it's adapted from a book that's coming out, this article that I showed you, by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. And I'm not even that eager to promote the book, but just to let you know what we're talking about, this is the book. So it's not exactly an excerpt from it, but it's sort of adapted from the book is the way they described it. But what I like about,
put that title up while you're talking again. Yeah.
What I like about it is that I think it's right to blame the Trump administration for botching it. And they really botched it big time. But that doesn't excuse anybody from carrying on like as if they know there's anything to prosecute. We've talked about this, several times over the last couple of months. And I've been saying one of the telltale signs that these people are full of it is that they always blame the Trump administration, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, even though having sex with a minor is a state crime. And we had Mel, you were out that week, but we had Mel Whitty on, the Village Crazy lady, I think it was 3 weeks ago, something like that. And in that episode, I said, Mel and Morgan, our co-host who's out tonight, were both saying that, there are federal laws that could be applied even when it's not trafficking. My argument was, they already got Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for trafficking. I don't think it's very likely that, Bill Gates and some of these others were involved in the business of trafficking. Just having sex with a minor is not a federal offense. But thanks to you, Ryan Milton, you made me see there actually are a couple of federal offenses that could be used for a federal prosecution. So I have to admit I was wrong about that. Nonetheless, I don't think that anybody who's carrying on as if they know that there are crimes to prosecute even know that. And I don't think it's done very often. And there's still no explanation as to why it's only clamoring for the DOJ to do something and not the state and local people. And one other thing, the members of Congress have access to the Epstein files, unredacted, and none of them, until a few days ago, have made a criminal referral saying, "Oh, here's what we found in the files. This is what you should prosecute." None of them until a few days ago. This is the first. Why is it?
You put the book.
No, I impressed the one I wanted.
Okay, all right.
That's been happening lately. I press one thing and a different thing shows up. So there's this hairstylist named Frederick Fekkai. I don't know how to pronounce it. And the ex-mayor of Miami Beach, Philip Levine, has been accused of sexually assaulting this woman when she was in her 20s. So it's not a federal offense to have sex with a woman in her 20s. And sexually assaulting somebody is not a federal offense. So it's not clear to me why, after all this time, they finally are referring something to something specific. This is what they have come up with. So I don't know. I think there's nothing there.
I mean, look, I guess somebody's got to go into the weeds like this, like you are on this. I think it's more fundamental. People are, by the way, let me just say the title of the book is pretty interesting to me, Regime Change, because he also campaigned against regime change wars. That was one of his big things, and we're going to get rid of all those neocons who do that. And who's the guy with the big mustache that supposedly that just got indicted? John Bolton, right? Who probably will not see the inside of a prison and will pay some kind of a fine, or they'll raise money and that will be used to pay a fine. Right. So, I mean, look, I don't think getting into the weeds is really the thing. I'd be interested to see what the rest of the book says. But
well, it's not that I'm getting into the weeds. These people are making a lot of noise. You just saw that they're trying to turn it into a Watergate scandal. And one of the reasons I can't stand it is because of issues like you just said don't get as much attention as they otherwise would, because there's a boy who cried wolf syndrome going on. The more these people,
it's the fake politics. It's the
Right.
fake. It's the playing with deck chairs on the Titanic. And you and I were talking about this thing last night about conservative bias versus progressive bias, and we're a little bit different. I am convinced that everybody that is paraded around on one side or the other are totally biased and totally do their talking points. And, it's all within the realm of what is approved by the establishment. And those things that we really need to be talked about, that we should be talking about, those are totally ignored, totally thrown under the table. That's the issue. And that's what people are angry about in this case here, in terms of the population. I don't really know about these authors. I can't say anything for them, right?
I don't. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the quotes that are in this book.
All right.
Here is a section of, well, I don't know if it's in the book, but it's from the article where they talk about a woman who heard that somebody else said Trump has some fixation on nipples, and he was too aggressive when he was sucking on her nipples.
Isn't that old? Isn't that like old?
Yeah. It's not even. Yeah, it's not even a new thing, because it came out in grand jury testimony that had been originally sealed, but it was released. So anybody that looked at it after it was released could have seen it. But the point is, Trump is being accused of a cover-up, but cover-up is just a word. It doesn't mean that it's illegal. Yeah, this is what he was trying to cover up, stuff like this. This is why he didn't want it to come out. It's kind of like, remember the controversy over releasing his tax returns?
Yeah.
And people are saying, oh, he's covering up something. He's covering up something. And I remember back then I would say, what do you mean covering up something? That's not a theory. It's a fact. He's literally covering up everything that's in the tax returns. Because if he were to release it, no matter what, whether he deserved it or not, that he would be accused of this and that. This is indication of corruption. So he didn't want it to come out. He didn't break any law. If you don't want to vote for him, fine. But he's not entitled to release this stuff. And in fact, there was finally this legislation, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I guess Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna were the main instigators of that. And Trump signed it. He signed the legislation. So what's the crime? It's not a crime for him to not want it to come out.
How about just being stupid?
Well, what's the what's the stupidity part?
Well, the stupidity part is they sold to people something, and everybody wants the receipts.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
right.
can't, and they're not getting them because as we showed with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it should be the easiest thing of all.
Right.
I mean, it's easier than looking at the JFK files, which are not even fully, released.
All right, let me just say one more thing about it, and then we can move on to another topic. And I've talked about this before. I seem to be the only person in the world who finds this weird, that when people write books or articles for magazines, websites, newspapers, whatever, very often, even when something happened a long time ago, and even when the person they're quoting, whether it's themselves or something else, even when the quote might be very lengthy, everybody seems to just believe it. Whereas I always notice it, and I think about, well, unless it was recorded, whether it's video or audio.
You're talking about the quote when they're quoting so-and-so said this back on,
So I already have a built-in suspicion when you're quoting like lengthy quotes from a long time ago. So in this book, they're relying completely on, or at least in this article, they're relying on completely anonymous quotes. So on top of it being anonymous, it's pretty lengthy. Now, there's two quotes here. The one on the top was what was said supposedly in the Situation Room. So according to my research, you can't bring phones into the Situation Room, and typically the meetings are not recorded. Okay? So nonetheless, we have lengthy quotes of what happened in the Situation Room. which means either they made it up or we're relying on somebody who has a tremendous memory, because I don't know if that's too small to read, but
It is.
yeah, it's kind of lengthy. I'm not saying it's extremely
That was
lengthy,
when
but
they said it's going to be President Trump's Iran Contra. Everything's got that like
yeah.
dun dun dun.
Right. And then the one on the bottom is what Dan Bongino supposedly told a confidant. So this is in a different setting. It's not in the Situation Room. It's somewhere, and he said this to a confidant. So either either they made it up, or Dan Bongino is the source, or the confidant is the source, unless they think if the confidant told somebody else and they consider that person a source. But here's the weird thing. The first paragraph, goes on quoting him, and then the next sentence down there, it says Bongino paused. And then he goes on to say, this is going to be President Trump's Iran Contra. Bongino paused. That's a very weird thing, a very specific, weird detail to say, because unless you see a recording of it or you're there in person, how would you know that Bongino paused at that point? It's way too specific and therefore suspicious. So I'm not saying that this particular quote is all that important. I'm just saying if that's what this is the kind of stuff that's in their book, I would pretty much discount it unless they explain it. If they're not going to explain it, I say, let's assume it's bullshit. It's made up. What do you say?
Yeah, well, actually, I was telling you about the interview that Tucker Carlson did of Jimmy Dore, and Jimmy Dore, I've been looking at this a couple times. I think, again, while what you're saying, obviously there is something to that, and what we say about Trump, putting his foot in his mouth early on, I think what Jimmy Dore was saying actually sort of gets at the heart of it. I don't know if it's going to be, the tip of the iceberg of a worldwide, pedophile network. I mean, the Ukrainians we know are the center of world sex trafficking right now. But is it going to be this other thing? I think it's worth listening to what Jimmy Dore said. It's to the point.
Good. Hopefully it'll be funny.
In 2015 about how the 90% of people, their wishes never are expressed in legislation, and it's only the top 10% of the wealthy people. And there's a direct correlation. If 50% of the wealthy people want something, 50% of the time it happens, And so, but the bottom doesn't matter. Your vote that literally doesn't matter. And we're living in that. And so, I was telling you before, in China, the government sits above capital.
Yes.
And so the economy works for the people, but in the United States, capital is above the government. And so the economy doesn't work for the people. It works for a handful of international globalist billionaires. And like I say is that we live in a surveillance state. And so we're like China, except we have more street crime and slower trains.
So I think he
sounds like somebody I know and love.
Yeah, exactly.
A very muscular yet strangely effeminate guy.
He does. And Tucker was sitting there just lapping it up. But I think he's getting to the point. And this is again, I was telling you, it reminded me back under Barack Obama, you had actually starting under Bush and then Obama, you had the Tea Party movement, which was very much against, all of the corruption in the government. And then you had, and they were on the right, Ron Paul related people. Then yet on the left, when Obama came in, you had the whole Occupy Wall Street, and they converged, two separate groups, because they were left. They were on the left, Occupy Wall Street, disagreed with each other on any number of things, but they came together specifically against the bank bailouts, the too big to fail banks, which is the elite. That's the point that people are getting at, I think, with the Epstein thing. The issue really with Epstein is not, was it a worldwide pedophile ring, which maybe it is, but it's also the fact that the elite financial establishment, they literally get everything that they want. And people see that.
I have to, you just said pedophile, and everybody calls Trump a pedophile. They call me a pedophile if I'm, quote, defending him. They talk, the media refers to Jeffrey Epstein as a pedophile as if it's a fact. this is another boy who cried wolf thing, because pedophilia is worth exposing when it happens. And if you're going to call everybody a pedophile just as a slang term, like you call somebody an asshole or a douchebag or something like that, then it's not going to stand out when there's a real pedophilia situation. Pedophilia is being sexually attracted to prepubescent children. And I don't think there's any evidence that even Jeffrey Epstein was into prepubescent children, let alone any of these friends of his.
All right. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but again, I think the point is people see the elites getting away with things.
That's true.
And there are people on the left and on the right, and Trump, the benefit to Trump, and then when Bobby Kennedy came on there, going after the pharmaceutical companies.
He's a pedophile, by the way.
No. He has a brainworm. Is that people feel that they were lied to, and Trump was going to go after these people, and that's what everybody saw that was going to happen, and it didn't happen, and everybody is pissed off.
I know.
So people don't know. They're just grasping at straws. I'm just saying, Jeff, that you got to recognize maybe it's grasping at straws. These establishment people that write these books, I wouldn't trust them. Right. These are these media people. I would not trust them.
No, and in fact, I think the media is in cahoots with these authors, because Melanie Stansberry is kind of a midwit. But if you saw her in that Anderson Cooper interview, she was polished. She had her talking points, which suggests to me that she knew in advance
preparation
what was in this book, and they were ready to go with it. Yeah. And it's I don't know. Trump is going to be out of our lives at some point, but we as a people are not going to be gone. We're still going to be here. So that's why I'm focused on the mindset of the people. And I want to hold the people accountable. So even though I get that, okay, they're pissed off at Trump for this and that, I don't want to let people off the hook for making crazy accusations. You got to think. You got to think. Just because Trump, a big bad, orange man bad, does not excuse every stupid accusation you make.
Yeah, it's left-wing populism and right-wing populism. And the problem is populism. It doesn't mean that, it's an educated and informed population. It's not a citizenry. Being a populace is not remember, in ancient Rome, it was the vox populi. It was the voice of the masses, and they were easily manipulated by the Roman elites for whatever war or whatever. So that's the problem.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the Republicans, conservatives. It's not just the Democrats and progressives. In fact, it was Republicans who made that criminal referral that I alluded to earlier. I can't.
There you go again.
It's not me. I'm hitting the right thing. It was Republicans who made this referral, and it was Thomas Massey who was involved in that terrible legislation calling for anything that mentions Epstein to be released to the public. And
why not though? Why not?
Because it's not. The argument is why? Because the default position is we don't do that because it harms people who are just caught in the crosshairs and haven't necessarily done anything. And this is what's happening. People are being smeared for simply associating with Jeffrey Epstein. That's why.
Yeah, well, but there is definitely something to the Epstein thing, and I think it's the banking, it's the financial establishment, it's the manipulation of, it's the financing of wars and financing of whatever other financial scams. That
if we're going to get at that, fine. But what I see is people making a big deal.
Well, that's not being talked about.
Yeah, they're talking about nipples instead. Now, I love nipples, by the way. I don't want anybody to think that I'm anti-nipple. So let me I just want to
noted.
I want to go on record as saying I am pro-nipple. All right. Thank you.
I think you might get the Medal of Honor for saying that, actually, because that's going to sound like a defense of the president.
as long as said nipples are on an adult's body.
Okay.
I want to clarify that. All right.
Now, Shall we move on to our next topic?
Well, let's check out somebody I know who's an adult who has tremendous nipples. Hang on one second.
Lion is very muscular, yet strangely effeminate.
All right.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
An oldie but a goldie. By the way, when you were in China, did anybody mention that little shtick? Was that
no?
I can imagine that because this sense of humor would go over very big in China. So they probably...
Not sure about that. Not sure about that.
All right. Sometimes I don't have my finger on the pulse of the Asian comedy scene.
That's right. Well, now speaking of China, and of course, we've now spoken about China twice, so that's international, and regime change. Candace Owens was just in Russia, just after I was there twice, after Scott Ritter goes there all the time, after Tucker Carlson went there. You didn't go there, but
I was going to go, though. I was going to go with Scott on the trip when they took his passport.
Yeah. Judge Knapp was going to go.
I went through all kinds of preparations for that, and anyway.
But all kinds of people have been going to Russia because and this, speaking of the Congress, right? The Democrats and then a handful of Republicans joined them enough that the House passed more sanctions on Russia. So I mean, I get upset about these things that Trump said because we had this whole meeting in Alaska, right? It was the spirit of Alaska. And it's like that stuff is just out of sight, out of mind now. But I'm glad she went. What do you think? I mean, do you have any view?
Oh, yeah. I'm totally on board with the citizen diplomacy idea. There's no better way to get to know people, to see what's really going on than to do it firsthand. Now, and whether or not we love Candace Owens is a different issue. She's kind of a hoaxer, but she goes
back and forth. She's got some things she's very good on.
Yeah, and she's very high profile, so it's good. And as long as she reported accurately about what she experienced in Russia, you got any good clips?
Actually, no. Some of the things that she said were pretty good. This one here, I thought was very good. Take a look at this.
So here are some photos from my trip that I wanted to share with you guys. And I had to take that photo because I had to upstage Tucker in the grocery stores, but they were actually so amazing. That picture, that person just looks like it's the Matrix. So I just had to include that.
Oh, he's an Orthodox priest.
Look at these the icons, the Christian icons, the oldest Christian icons. You can just keep going through, but
this is in the armed forces.
It was almost like a metaphysical experience. Is the only way I can describe it. And you feel it, like you feel the experience, and you recognize that something has gone wrong, and you seek to know what it is that has gone wrong. Like why our society doesn't look like this. Why is this safe? Why is it clean? Why are they lying to me about how safe and how clean it is? How on earth is this a country that is at a level 4 travel advisory? Like if Moscow is at a level 4 travel advisory, ladies and gentlemen, what the hell travel advisory is DC? What is the travel advisory of DC? Chicago, Los Angeles. We are so far in the cave, you guys, and people are creating shadows on the wall. We are at a very bad time in our country.
I mean, yeah, now listen to this, because so she says a very bad time in our country, and then she had something to say on that topic here.
Away from visiting Russia is that it is our society that is on the decline, not theirs. Russia, like I said, has not been communist in over 30 years. What about us? Pornography, welfarism, nonstop war, debt. People telling us that this is freedom, right? This is great. This is you being free. You wouldn't want to live in Russia. That's the boogeyman syndrome, right? They're comparing it to something that you've never seen so that you don't, riot in the streets.
I bet there's also no nipple torture in Russia like there is here.
Oh my God! You definitely need to go. You definitely need to go.
Somerville John wants to know why Candace hasn't been jailed for claiming that Macron's wife is a man. Well, that's because it's not a crime that's punishable by imprisonment. It's a civil lawsuit.
I think there is a lawsuit, yeah. But
there is, and I guess it's still.
And anyway, that's France.
You don't go to prison for defaming people. You just have to pay money if you lose the lawsuit. All right.
I mean, I think right there,
like you said, in civil court for saying that you're strangely effeminate, but I wouldn't go to jail for it. Like
I would sue you for that.
Yeah, you have to prove that you're not.
You have no money. No, you have no money. I can make the proof. You don't have any money, so it's worthless to sue you for that.
That's true too. I can get away with a lot more.
Like I don't even want your wine.
See, well, I'm betting on the Knicks. So if they win in 5, I may have a big.
Then I will sue you for.
Did you watch? You didn't watch the game last night, huh?
No.
Oh, it was the greatest game ever. Greatest. Let me show you this. Hang on one second. The Knicks were down by 29 points in the third quarter. And when it came down to the last 5 seconds, they're down by 1 point. They erased 28 of those 29 points. And here is what happened in the last 5 seconds.
Go flat for Jalen Brunson. Allow him to operate at the top. 101.
Brunson gets it. Fires up a 3. Shot no good. The tip, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. With 1.2 remaining. Knicks take the lead. OG Anunoby, and it's 107-106. Bedlam here at the Garden. They can't believe it.
But you want to hang out with those guys right there.
Oh, I do. Look how bewildered Jerry Seinfeld. He can't believe what he just saw.
Brunson's shot looked good and just came up
those
short.
Those are all your old friends.
John McEnroe, Larry David.
Yeah. Those are all your old friends.
I'm sorry to interrupt with that. What were you about to say?
Well, I was just going to say, for the record, you're right. New York City is the center for basketball in the United States. And all of the evidence you sent me, though, was weird because it was AI generated and half of it was just the same video from Instagram playing over and over again. And then the other things that were actually written out, they were still wrong. So actually, New York City, the 5 boroughs, has 1,800 park basketball courts, which is way more than any of those links had even said.
You know, last night, Ryan and I had an argument that I would describe as ridiculous, mainly because of Ryan's. It
was ridiculous, but
now you have a whole new ridiculous argument. I didn't send you anything that was AI generated. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
are you suffering from some kind of mental?
You sent me a link from Gemini that was proving your point, and what it did is it provided all the sources for the generated messaging that it had, and all the sources were the same video playing over and over again. So that's all I'm saying. I looked at what you sent me. That's what
I don't know about what it linked to. I was just showing you that it mentioned how many playgrounds it has in New York. I sent video. What do you mean not correctly? I sent videos separately of that shows what.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. Right. That was very nice.
Ryan had the goal to dispute it on the phone last night when I said that New York is the basketball capital of the world. It's a big deal on the playgrounds there more than anywhere else. NBA players show up at the playgrounds. It's a real big deal.
No, it is a big deal. That would have been fun. So, okay. Having worked for the NBA myself one time in the past for the Phoenix Suns,
Oh yeah, what did you do for them? Were you a ball boy?
I was a ball boy. I was a kid.
Were you really?
For a whole season, yeah, and for all the home games. So, and we used to play basketball with all the players before the game. They'd always kick our ass because we were kids, right? And they were 10 feet tall, and we were 5 feet tall. So,
well,
now I have a video that neither Tucker nor Candace have about Russia that I had made, and I don't think you actually ever saw it. So I wanted to show you that one. Jeff, take a look at these chocolates. I know you're not into chocolate.
So where is this?
It's in Moscow.
And this is what, Candace video?
This is this is my video.
Oh, it's your video. Okay.
When I was there in Moscow, cheeses and whoops, I got waters. So this is a corner store. Closed. It's late. This is their wine section, but this is a little 24-hour corner store. You can get wines from all over Italy, France.
Well, that is a good
Germany,
selection for a 24-hour convenience
the Russian
store.
wine section. Well, they actually had more wine from international places than ice from cream, Russia. Although the Russian wine is good. Nuts. This is the prepared food section, and very good prepared foods. Hot dogs. Really? There's their little deli area. Now this is like midnight. Very nice. Very nice little place.
All right, we get the picture.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a real grocery store. They did not go and look at all that stuff. You don't like chocolate, I think I remember you telling me sometime.
No, I like the taste, but I can't digest it that well. Depending on what form it's in, chocolate is usually in something that's not.
But I wanted to make a different point about the citizen diplomacy that Candace alluded to and others have alluded to, because the one thing, like, as you know, I was just in China, that all of this does, if you bother to say, okay, well, let me at least find out what's going on, is that you realize there is some commonality between, that country and our country, that something else is going on. And if you're into history, like I'm into history, then you also get an opportunity to go back into your own, like, for example, we're approaching this is the 250th anniversary of the United States, right? And
we're old.
We're not old. We're the oldest continuous written constitution. That is the thing that is important.
Well, it's all age is relative.
Yeah. But one thing I learned.
Age is a state of mind.
For example, in China, was that they had this idea of creating what they called a Zhaokang. I'm probably not saying it right. Zhaokang society. And this was this idea taken from Confucius and others of creating a society that was happy, that the population was doing well, and that this is something that they've been thinking about for a very, very long time. And I went and looked up a couple of the founding fathers, just to show people that, like, if you go to Russia, if you go to China, and then you come back and you look at our history, that there's something good that also brings us together. That's the point I wanted to make. So, like, take a look at this. I'll get a little nerdy here. Ben Franklin wrote a series of essays on from the morals of Confucius. And he said that Confucian philosophy is the gate through which it is necessary to pass to arrive at the sublimest wisdom and the most perfect. So that's very interesting, right? Who would have thought he would be talking about that? George Washington had nominated James Wilson to be an associate judge on the Supreme Court. So imagine our Supreme Court justices. Everybody gets all upset about, did they sleep with somebody? Did he? I forget what the guy, the Republican that they got all upset about. But listen, he said, all lawful government is founded with the consent of those who are subject to it. The consequence is that the happiness of society is the first law of every government. And then you think about Lincoln, where he talked about government of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? So when you go to Russia, you see a resonance with those ideas there, and in China. So I went and dug this up on this Zhaokang society in China, because right now, Trump just was in China, and I just want to say there is something good Trump's doing. While he's doing crappy things with Russia, with Iran, with Benjamin Netanyahu. President Xi is coming to the White House in September. Trump was over there. G20 in Miami is this December. So there's going to be a lot of discussions, and they did form some agreements. I wrote down, they created a joint trade and joint investment council to quickly get development and production between the two countries going. So take a look at this video, though, from that standpoint of what Benjamin Franklin said, and this idea in China What does it mean to achieve a Xiaokang society? I took a clip.
Achieved its goal of building a Xiaokang society, a moderately prosperous society in all respects. What does that mean in a country of 1.4 billion people? The Communist Party of China actually began discussing the idea of a Xiaokang society 40 years ago, at the beginning of China's reform and opening up.
Shanghai.
But it was in 2002 that the 16th CPC National Congress formally proposed building a Xiaokang society in all respects. In 2012, the 18th CPC National Congress expanded this goal to focus on 5 aspects: economic, political, cultural, social, and ecological progress. China's rapid economic development laid a solid foundation for building a Xiaokang society in all respects. By the end of 2020, 1.36 billion people, 95% of the population, had basic medical insurance. 999 million people, over 90% of the population, were covered by the pension system. China's cultural industry has also seen rapid growth. Lifting entire communities out of poverty and taking the road of common prosperity have been landmark indicators of building a well-off society in all respects.
So, I mean, take a look at that. That's amazing, right? It's, they call it, Chinese communism. Fine. I don't care. You call it whatever you want. If you go into,
but it was the philosophy that we espouse in this country back in the day. So
that's my point. That's my point. So when you go to these, when you do like what Candace did or what Tucker did or what I did, and you go to these places, it's like the light bulb goes on, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, I've been distracted by what, like the crazy left versus right wing thing. And that's what I like about what Jimmy Dore said with Tucker. That's where this whole thing about what Trump is doing with Iran is so crazy and infuriates people, because 38 times he said we're about to get a deal. But it's like all this stuff that could be done that he said he was going to do to make the United States better, it's out the window, right? We're not even talking about that. And how can you? Because people are like, like my local Facebook page, they're like, what we need to do is bomb Iran even more. They're not thinking about their grandkids' future at all, right? So anyway, so I'm very happy Candace did what she did. And I do think, if you can't afford to go, there are so many YouTube videos out there, right? Alex Reportify, who's his friend that I just Cyrus Jansen, which I want to get him on the show. He's been over there. He's going to be over there for months, and like he was just walking across. Like there's the biggest bridge in the world, highest bridge. And they have a thing where underneath the bridge, you can go and walk across the bridge, with across these wood steps, and you're hanging from it with a harness. And they assisted his ability to do this and take some videos. And it's just incredible. And we just need to see more and more of that, because then it's going to be like that Samantha Smith. Remember Samantha Smith? It'll be like that.
The ambassador of peace, the little girl.
Yeah, the little girl, 1982, she went over there. So even these guys, John Cleese was like, yeah, Candace, going over there.
He's a terrible human.
Putin's Russia, like Stalin's Russia. This is craziness. This is all craziness. And people get all wrapped up into that bullshit. Right. And they miss out.
On a personal level, we have a regular viewer in Iran named Hassan Jahangiri, I think it's the last name pronounced.
Yeah.
His first name's a little easier, Hassan.
Yeah.
And
he's the honey broker.
Right. Is that not broker? Honey something else. But
he's
anyway.
A honey broker. He actually.
Oh, I thought you were talking about his handle. His handle's a little different. But anyway.
No, he's a honey broker. Yeah.
All right, I heard you.
Yeah.
But I think his handle is a little different. I thought that's what you were referring to.
Yeah.
Anyway, he disappeared for, I guess, a month or two after the initial attack in Iran, and I was worried about him. And I sent him a message, didn't hear back, and then he finally resurfaced. And I asked him what he would tell us about, what might be a misunderstanding or what's not being reported correctly here. And he left me a message. This is about 2 weeks ago. and I haven't had, just didn't see the opportunity to put it anywhere. I've been sitting on it. I hope that it's not stale news by now, but you want to hear what Hassan said that is going on there, that maybe he wants us to understand, that he thinks isn't being.
Yeah. Play it.
All right.
One of the things that I think is not being reported accurately in the United States is the number of killed in action on the American side. And I'm not talking about the Israeli side. They say it is 13. It is reported in your media, and it is very laughable. I mean, we have two official media outlets on that, and one I think belonged to the Iranian army, and the other one to IRGC. And one was 400 plus, the other one was 600 plus American killed in action. That was the official report that I read. I heard from Iranian officials. And I'm talking about the 20th day after the war, not like the 40th day. I'm talking about March 18th, 20th. So that was the number then. And to my own estimation, it could be well over 1,000, like 1,500 perhaps, American killed. My number could come to you as exaggerated, but I have seen the barracks, the resorts, the places that were hit by Iran. And I have seen the map. I've been following the places that have and when they were hit. So I think that the number that even Iran suggested, 600 plus, it's way above that. But how America is accepting the number 13, it's very laughable. I think there was an image that I saw in one of Iranian outlets that apparently Donald Trump was talking about 3 dead bodies coming back from Iran, and there were 4. I mean, one was being carried, and there were 3 already in the airplane. And they were in the back of the airplane, so you don't know how many were in front of those coffins. That's something that I cannot wrap my head around it. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there was an Apache that was shot down the other day by the Iranians 2 days ago. And the pilots were rescued by a U.S. drone boat. So that was the big news. But typically, right, nothing goes wrong. Everything goes right. What we're saying is the most reasonable thing. The other side is, and that's, I'll tell you one thing, that's not negotiation. That's not diplomacy. Another person that I'm very interested in, as an American diplomat, Chaz Freeman, who we haven't had him on the show, but he was, I forget where he was an ambassador to. I want to say Saudi Arabia. I could be wrong. Maybe also to China. He's also fluent in Chinese, but he just gave a speech about 3 weeks ago at Brown University about the American misimagination of China. And in this one little speech, he gives the entire history of the U.S. and China and all the relations. And basically he says, you have to have you have to have 120 years plus of our history of relations, the good and the bad, in your mind when you engage with another country. I mean, that's not at all what's going on from the United States perspective at all. There's not that depth of, you're not allowed to. Remember, Scott's daughter she goes to Georgetown University, Scott Ritter's daughter. And when she went with him to Russia, to Chechnya, they almost threw her out of the program because she met with the leader there. Well,
I don't know if it was specifically that, but just the whole idea of her going there and being interested and seeing what's going on. It's like ridiculous.
In other words, not just taking their word for it, in terms of what Russia is.
Which is what you're doing, and what I'm totally with you completely, is you just go and you see for yourself. How can you, boy, man, that's so sad that institutions of higher learning frown on such wholesome citizen diplomacy. By the way, it's Saudi Arabia. I just looked it up. Chaz Freeman is the former ambassador to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So I was right. Good.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the thing is maybe you get enough people that go, because Candace is a huge personality. Maybe more people go, and then they realize, hey, it's totally different. And that is the basis to then get a policy change in the United States. Because what you've said and what I've said is the problem is the American people more than anything else, that they allow this craziness to happen.
Yeah, I'm really down. I'm really in my misanthrope mode now.
Yeah, it's the wine.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
You have to think like Confucius. Be Confucian, not confused.
People say that, the internet is not real life. And I get that. On one hand, it's not real life necessarily. It's not indicative of how everybody thinks and behaves. On the other hand, I think it is indicative of how a lot of people think and behave. And lately, the crap I've been seeing on the internet is just so annoying. It's like what I was saying before about the TDS stuff with Trump. The anti-Trumpers were so invested in Trump being booed at Madison Square Garden, and they were going on and on, about how he was just so selfish for going to the game. And it's like, come on, presidents get to go to sporting events, right? That's a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
but they act like it's uniquely like it's a uniquely egregious offense when he does something that's relatively routine.
Jeff,
all right, so the
let me ask you a question.
What?
Let me ask you a question. Don't you think that if he went to the game under circumstances where he pulled the plug on Zelensky and told Netanyahu to go screw himself and poured $1 trillion into building high-speed rail in this country like China did, don't you think people would be cheering him for being at the Knicks game?
Well, some would.
Most would be, right?
Suppose,
because that's what I'm saying. So
again, but the ratio doesn't even matter that much. The ratio doesn't matter that much. It's just one crowd of people.
Look, people in Russia, they largely voted for Putin. They like him a lot. They don't think he's perfect, but they like him a lot. And in China, they like what Xi is doing. So the one good thing, like I said, is we have a tradition that's 250 years old, and that's what we're missing here. So I don't care if it's Trump or, if I don't even know. They're going to get Tits AOC to run for president. I don't know. But that's not going to be better, obviously. Trump blew his chance. He could still turn it around. I'm not thinking he's going to turn it around because his buddy Lindsey Graham, he made sure that Lindsey Graham got elected, right?
He made sure, but how did he make
sure? I don't know.
By endorsing him? Is that what you mean?
I would say look at how the money that was spent to defeat Massey, whether you like him or not.
I think we should blame it on Somerville John, who lives in South Carolina. John, why couldn't you get your neighbors to vote with greater discernment? I'm talking to you, John.
Don't have him call in, please, Jeff. He's gonna get no. Don't call in, Somerville John. Don't call in. Anyway. We don't have to be a populace. We don't have to be the vox populi. We have to be a citizenry. So our job, Jeff, is to help people be better citizens. Should be our job.
All right. Let's make that part of our job. You talked me into it. All right. Thank you, Orion, and thanks to our beloved audience. Once again, we have a lot of crossover people from Scott's show that we do, Ask the Inspector. Just in case you haven't heard, we are on hiatus for the month of June, and we'll be back on July 1st. But next Tuesday is Probable Cause. That's one of our other podcasts where I see you, calm down, where we focus on crime and punishment issues. And we will be back next week on the Reiners. Ryan is very eager to say something. Go ahead.
No, because I think this is a good way to tie it off. What Alex Lithium in Russia was saying is news about the U.S.-Russia tunnel, right? So I think Kirill Dmitriev said that we're very close to signing a U.S.-Russian agreement to spend $80 billion to build this tunnel, and the design will be done by the end of the year. And what my understanding of it is, while I think the idea is very good and it goes way back to Abraham Lincoln's time. I think that it's a good way for the Russians to have a forcing medium to the United States. You say you want good relations, then change your system to make this project possible. And I think it's that kind of thing. That's how people should look at it right now.
All right. There you have it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
My hat to you.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Nighty night.